Hello and welcome to Newsweek South Asia, a show where we'll provide you fresh insights into South Asia's geopolitical, strategic and security situation. Let's begin the show with the headlines first. Indian security forces bolster counter-terrorism efforts in Jammu and Kashmir. Protests erupt amid allegations of abductions and crackdown in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And International Olympic Committee announces Afghanistan's gender equal team for Paris, Taliban excluded. In the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, the Indian Army and Jammu and Kashmir Police have scored a major victory against terrorism. In a swift operation, security forces neutralized 2 terrorists in Baramulla district. The operation, based on specific intelligence, revealed that the terrorists were Pakistani nationals belonging to the Lashkar-e-Taiba group. In a related development, the Jammu and Kashmir Police made a major breakthrough in the terror attack on a bus in Jammu and Kashmir's Riyasi district earlier this month. They arrested a suspected overground worker believed to have facilitated and provided logistical support for the attack.
The Jammu and Kashmir Police have achieved a significant breakthrough following the recent terror attack in Riyasi district, in which a bus carrying pilgrims was targeted. In a remarkable display of efficiency, the police managed to apprehend a prime terrorist associate in connection with the June 9 Riyasi massacre. He has been identified as Hakam Deen, a resident of Rajouri. He was providing logistical support to terrorists who were involved in the Shiv Khori incident. This is the first arrest in the case.
A major breakthrough has been achieved in the case FIR number 31/2024 under section 302, 307 IPC, 727 Arms Act, 16, 18, 20 UAPA Act of PS Pony pertaining to the terrorist attack on a pilgrim bus which was coming from Shiv Khori on 9th of June 2024. In this, one terror associate, namely Hakam Deen, son of Makhan, age 45 years, resident of Bandrahi, district Rajouri, has been arrested by Jammu and Kashmir Police at Riyasi. This person was involved in harboring the terrorists multiple times, along with providing food and shelter. The said person also acted as a guide and helped them in reaching the spot of incident. The arrested person is a prime militant associate who helped the terrorist in execution of the attack. Further interrogation and investigation of the case is going on.
In another separate incident, security forces successfully neutralized 2 terrorists during an encounter in Hadipura area of Sopore, Baramulla district. The joint operation conducted by the Indian Army and the Jammu and Kashmir Police began following specific intelligence inputs about the presence of terrorists in the region. During the exchange of fire, 1 police officer and 1 army jawan sustained injuries. Incriminating materials, arms and ammunition, including an AK-47 rifle and a pistol, were recovered from the encounter site.
जम्मू कश्मीर पुलिस को और सिक्योरिटी फोर्सेस को एक इनपुट मिला था और वो उस इनपुट को फर्दर डेवलप करा गया. जब उसको डेवलप कर रहे थे तो एक लोकेशन पे हम लोगों को सस्पिशियस मूवमेंट नजर आया और जब वहां सर्च करने लग गए तो वो जो सस्पिशियस मूवमेंट के दौरान जो सर्च हो रही थी वो एक ऑपरेशन में तब्दील हो गया. तो इस ऑपरेशन ये जो है आज सुबह अर्ली मॉर्निंग से चला और शाम तक कंक्लूड हुआ है. अभी सर्च ऑपरेशंस, कॉशियस सर्च ऑपरेशंस अभी भी जारी हैं. बट इस ऑपरेशन में हम लोगों ने जो है 2 टेररिस्ट जो है वो मार गिराए हैं सिक्योरिटी फोर्सेस ने. जम्मू कश्मीर पुलिस, आर्मी और सीआरपीएफ की टुकड़ियां जो वहां पे तैनात थी उन्होंने.
Last week, Jammu and Kashmir witnessed a disturbing surge in terror attacks orchestrated by Pakistan-backed groups, highlighting Islamabad's relentless drive to destabilize the region. The most harrowing of these attacks occurred on June 9, when the Resistance Front claimed responsibility for a brutal assault on a bus carrying Hindu pilgrims in Riyasi district. The violence continued the next day in Doda district, where terrorists attacked a joint checkpost of the 4 Rashtriya Rifles on the Bhadarwa Pathankot road, leading to a fierce encounter with security forces. This attack injured 5 Indian Army soldiers and a special police officer. As Doda dealt with the aftermath, another attack unfolded in Saida village, Kathua district. Villagers alerted authorities to the presence of terrorists, resulting in a gunfight that left 1 terrorist and a paramilitary soldier dead. Amid the turmoil, the Director General of Police R.R. Swain made a resolute statement. A war had been imposed on us, but every terrorist in Jammu and Kashmir will be killed. His words echoed the determination of the security forces and the resilience of the people of Jammu and Kashmir.
हम अपना रिस्पॉन्स बना रहे हैं और उसको हम नुकसान अगर छोटी बहुत उठानी पड़ेगी। जब एक जंग हम पर लाद दिया जाता है, टेररिस्ट हमारे सामने खड़े हो जाते हैं बंदूक लेकर मरने के लिए और मारने के लिए, तो हम भी अपने हिसाब से इसको तैयारी कर रहे हैं। हम अपना सारे रिसोर्सेज को मैप कर रहे हैं और हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि इसकी मुंह तोड़ जवाब दिया जाएगा। और वो बहुत ज़्यादा तादाद में नहीं है, पर यह है कि वो कानून के बाहर है और उनका कोई आगे पीछे नहीं है, इसलिए उनकी नुकसान करने की क्षमता जरूरत से ज़्यादा दिखती है।
The spate of attacks served as a stark reminder of Pakistan's insidious strategy to export terror and disrupt peace in India. Despite international condemnation and the designation of groups like TRF as terrorist organizations by India in 2023, Islamabad continued to nurture and deploy these proxies to wage its asymmetrical warfare. Such actions not only endanger lives but also aim to destabilize the socio-economic fabric of Jammu and Kashmir, proving once again that Pakistan's commitment to fostering terrorism is undeterred by the boundaries of morality or international law. The global community must recognize and condemn Pakistan's role in perpetuating this cycle of violence and hold it accountable for its ongoing support of terrorism.
In Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, recent events have sharply raised human rights concerns. There are widespread reports of illegal detentions, abductions, and a harsh clampdown on dissent, leading to both local protests and global scrutiny. Among those affected is Khwaja Khurshid Ahmed, a prominent figure from the Neelam area, reportedly detained by security forces on June 7th with no information available about his current location. A report. In Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, there have been alarming reports of unlawful detentions and abductions, raising serious human rights concerns. Instances involve individuals, often activists or dissenters, reportedly taken by state authorities or unidentified groups. These individuals are frequently held without proper legal procedures, with their locations undisclosed for prolonged periods. The recent abduction of Khwaja Khurshid Ahmed, a prominent figure from the region, has sparked widespread protests. Local activists and student leaders have organized sit-ins and demonstrations across various sectors of POJK, demanding Ahmed's immediate release along with other detained political activists. They have also threatened a long march from Kotli to Muzaffarabad if their demands are not addressed. Shaukat Nawaz Mir, a leader associated with the Jammu Kashmir Joint Awami Action Committee, stated that Khwaja Khurshid Ahmed, originally from the Neelam area, was allegedly taken into custody by security forces on June 7th, and his current whereabouts remain unknown.
हम हमारे साथ जोर जबरदस्ती की जा रही है, हमारे साथ बदमाशी की जा रही है। क्या कानून सिर्फ आवाम के लिए है? क्या कानून उस मिनिस्टर उस वज़ीर आज़म के लिए नहीं है? अगर आप एक तरफ ये कानून चलाओगे तो हम इस कानून को नहीं मानेंगे। अगर तुम इस कानून को प्रॉपर इस्तेमाल करोगे तो हम इस कानून को मानेंगे। हम बार बार ये कहते हैं कि रियासत हमारी है, ये निज़ाम है तो हम हैं, ये कानून है तो हम हैं, लेकिन ये नहीं होगा कि आप अपने फायदे के लिए इस कानून को साइड पे कर दो और जहाँ पे गरीब को, एक्शन कमेटी को ज़ेरे बार करना हो तो वहाँ पे ये कानून आप सामने ले आओ। ये बात कोई तस्लीम नहीं करेगा। मेरे लिए आटा बिजली मसला नहीं है, मेरे लिए आटा बिजली मसला नहीं है, मेरे लिए मेरी शनाख्त मसला है। मैं कश्मीरी हूँ, मैं कश्मीरी हूँ, मुझे मेरी शनाख्त चाहिए। मैं अपनी शनाख्त को किसी भी सूरत उस पर कोई कंप्रोमाइज नहीं करूँगा।
The arrests in POJK have garnered attention from human rights organizations. The reasons behind these detentions may vary, ranging from political dissent to advocating for the rights of Kashmiris. The detainment of activists underscore broader issues surrounding freedom of speech and civil liberties in the region. The protests by Joint Awami Action Committee are significant expressions of dissent and activism against perceived injustices in the region.
जिस पे कोई जुर्म है तो आप उन्हें गिरफ्तार करके अदालत में पेश करें। यह तो कोई कानून नहीं है, यह कोई उसूल नहीं है कि आप किसी को भी घर से उठाकर अगवा कर ले, उस पर तशद्दुद करें, लोगों में खौफ व हरास फैलाएं। हमें इस दहशतगर्दी की भरपूर मज़म्मत करते हैं। फिर ये कहते हैं कि ये नारे लगाते हैं, ये जो दहशतगर्दी है, तुम्हारे लोग बंदे मारे, तुम्हारी वर्दी वाले लोग आकर हमारे बंदों को मारे, तुम्हारे लोग हमारे बंदों को उठाए तो हम क्या फूल बरसाएंगे। हमने यही नारे लगाने हैं कि ये जो दहशतगर्दी है इसके पीछे वर्दी है।
The detention of Kashmiri activists is just one facet of a larger pattern of human rights abuses in the region. Activists, journalists, and political opponents critical of the government have faced harassment, intimidation, and arbitrary arrests in the region. There have been allegations of censorship and media restrictions in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Reporters who venture into investigative journalism risk physical violence, arbitrary arrest, or closure of their outlets, further silencing crucial voices within the region. Political opponents critical of the ruling authorities face similar repression. Opposition leaders and their supporters are routinely targeted with legal harassment, surveillance, and even physical assault aimed at quelling dissent and maintaining political control. Public outrage in Pakistan mounts as the government enacts significant tax hikes to secure an IMF bailout aiming to prevent another economic crisis. However, the ambitious tax revenue target of 13 trillion rupees faces strong public opposition, with many citizens struggling to cope with soaring inflation and increased costs of essential goods. People in Pakistan express frustration, questioning the fairness and feasibility of the new budget amid severe economic hardships. We have a report.
There's widespread outrage in Pakistan against the government over significant tax increases aimed at boosting state revenues. These measures are intended to secure approval for an International Monetary Fund bailout to avert another economic crisis. Experts believe Pakistan's strategy to raise taxes in the latest budget could secure IMF backing, but has stirred public discontent. The budget's objective is to prevent another economic meltdown, but it faces strong public opposition. Pakistan has set an ambitious tax revenue target of $47 billion for the fiscal year starting July 1, a nearly 40% increase. However, collecting these taxes poses a significant challenge. much of Pakistan's economic activity remains informal and unregistered, undermining fiscal stability and growth.
हम माचिस की डिबिया पे भी जो है वो आपको टैक्स दे रहे हैं, हमारे टैक्स से आप लोग चल रहे हैं, सारी गवर्नमेंट हमारे टैक्स पे चल रही है और हम टैक्स देकर भी जो है वो इतने लाचार, इतने बेबस हैं कि हम अपनी जिंदगियां खुद को कुर्बान करने पे लगा रहे हैं.
With the soaring cost of essential goods, many Pakistanis are skeptical that the new budget will bring meaningful improvements. Citizens in major cities express frustration and anger, having hope for relief but facing further hardships. Pakistan has been battling severe inflation during its worst economic crisis in decades. In 2023, inflation surged above 40%, igniting protests as people struggle to afford basic necessities. The tax revenue target includes a 48% increase in direct taxes and a 35% hike in indirect taxes. Non-tax revenue, including petroleum levies, is expected to rise by an astounding 64%.
ये इंतहाई जो है वो गरीब दुश्मन बजट है. ये अवाम दोस्त बजट बिल्कुल भी नहीं इसको कहा जा सकता, क्योंकि उसकी वजूहत ये हैं कि आप ये देख सकते हैं जो हम जैसे जो तनख्वाहदार जो तबका है उसके ऊपर मजीद जो है टैक्सेस का बोझ डाल दिया गया है. ऑलरेडी पहले से ही इतने सारे टैक्सेस हमारे ऊपर हैं, जिसके अंदर आप ये देखें ना, गरीब आदमी या तनख्वाहदार तबका जो है वो किस तरीके से गुजारा करेगा. ठीक है ना. अभी जो है बिजली के बिल, गैस के बिल, उसके साथ साथ दीगर मुख्तलिफ जो है टैक्सेस जो है डायरेक्ट इंडायरेक्ट हम पे जो है वो लागू किए गए हैं. हम उसकी बोझ तले जो है दबते जा रहे हैं और ये मजीद टैक्सेस पे टैक्सेस लगाकर मजीद जो है ना अवाम को जो है खुदकुशी पर जो है मजबूर किया जा रहा है कि वो खुदकुशी करके मर जाएं.
There are concerns about the government's capacity to implement reforms due to the complexities of coalition politics and growing public pressure against inflationary measures. Reports suggest that Pakistan People's Party, an ally of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's government, is dissatisfied with some budget measures. Additionally, Sharif's government contends with the enduring popularity of its main rival, jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan. Lawmakers from Khan's party vehemently protested as the budget was presented.
In a powerful statement against the Taliban's oppressive regime, Afghanistan will field a gender-equal team at the Paris Olympics. The International Olympic Committee's decision sends a clear message about gender equality and the resilience of Afghan women. Despite severe restrictions on women's rights under the Taliban rule, these athletes represent hope and determination. IOC has also said that no representative of the de facto authorities will be accredited to the 2024 Olympic Games. In a largely symbolic move, Afghanistan will field a gender-equal team at the Paris Olympics comprising 3 women and 3 men. This decision by the International Olympic Committee sends a powerful message to Afghanistan and the world about gender equality and the possibilities for Afghan women under Taliban rule.
The clear idea is that we want to get Afghan athletes and a gender-based team in Paris because of the demonstration that gives to the world at home and in Afghanistan, but also to the rest of the world. So it's really been an important thing for us, and that continues, and that relationship with the NOC that we recognise continues.
Despite the Taliban claims of respecting women's rights with their interpretation of Islamic law, their actions tell a different story. Since their return to power, girls' high schools have been closed, women face travel restrictions without a male guardian, and their access to parks and gyms has been severely limited. The International Olympic Committee has been in talks with the Afghan sports authorities to reverse these restrictions, due to which the international body has said that no Taliban official will be accredited for the Games, ensuring that the focus remains on the athletes and their extraordinary journeys.
To be clear, no representative of the de facto authorities, the Taliban government, will be accredited for the Olympic Games 2024.
Afghanistan's male athletes will compete in athletics, swimming and judo, while the women will participate in athletics and cycling. This gender-equal representation at the Olympics stands in stark contrast to the gender-based violence and restrictions that women face in Afghanistan.
The team will be composed of 6 athletes, 3 men competing in athletics, swimming and judo, 3 women competing in athletics and cycling.
21-year-old Maniza Talash, a refugee from Afghanistan, is breaking new ground as a pioneering bee girl. This summer, Talash will be among the first athletes to compete in breaking, also known as break dancing, when it debuts at the Paris Olympics. This competitive form of dance blends artistry and acrobatics, a combination that embodies Talash's journey of resilience and hope. In her native Afghanistan, Talash found insurmountable odds. As the only woman in a 56-member breaking crew in Kabul, she received death threats and faced constant opposition. The situation worsened in 2021 when the Taliban took control, outlawing music and dancing as un-Islamic and barring most women and girls from education.
Si yo estuve en Afganistán, no vive, porque los talibanes no le gustan este deporte que estoy haciendo. Y es muy peligroso para mí y para mi familia. Pero estoy aquí que hago, no que tengo miedo.
Faced with an impossible choice, Talash decided to leave Afghanistan, spending a year in Pakistan before being granted refugee status in Spain. With the help of friends and the refugee Olympic team, Talash secured her spot in Paris.
Para las chicas que están en Afganistán es muy difícil hacer todas las cosas. Por ejemplo, salir de casa o estudiar porque no pueden hacer nada. Pero yo estoy feliz que estoy aquí y ahora quiero hacer algo para mis personas que están en Afganistán, mis chicas, mis amigas. Entonces, es muy difícil, pero yo quiero hacer, no quiero solo decir.
The Paris Olympics will showcase the incredible talents of Maniza Talash and her fellow Afghan athletes, standing as a powerful statement against oppression and for the rights of women and girls. Their participation in these games highlight the enduring human spirit and the global quest for justice and equality, demonstrating that even in the face of adversity, hope and resilience can prevail. And with that, we come to the end of this edition of Newsweek South Asia. We'll be back next week with more news, views and analysis from the subcontinent. Meanwhile, do keep writing to us at nwsa@anin.com. This is Shivangi Mishra signing off on behalf of the entire production team of Newsweek South Asia. Goodbye and take care.